From back here where you get on the highway to about here is really on-off ramp that is dictated by the Arizona Department of Transportation. This is the inspection area for autos, bus and secondary. There's secondary inspection areas, a vehicle lift, and then from here out is the on-ramp back to I-19. You can see there's some visitor parking here, retention wall, septic system, retention wall, lots of landscaping. But when you think about a large facility, it is large, and I'm not trying to sell this, I'm just trying to explain it. The actual inspection is here to here. Let's go to Objective 4 and finish up. Community impact, another area I know you're interested in. As I mentioned earlier, we talked with about everyone we could, and I thank everyone here who shared their time and their data with us, the law enforcement and the community work group and others, and those of other checkpoint locations, because we did try to turn over every rock we could and try to find whatever source of credible data we could. From the opinion/qualitative data side, what we found is that in areas where checkpoints had been for many years, in the other locations we visited, there was general support for the checkpoint being there. Now, granted, many of these were in remote locations, and many of these had been there, and when they're in cities like the one in San Clemente and Temecula, they are 24/7 because of traffic considerations. But they generally supported them. Not 100%, but generally yes. In fact, we asked people, if you had the chance to take it out now, would you recommend it be taken out? And the answer overwhelmingly was, no, don't take it out. It serves a law enforcement purpose. The people there had concerns similar to the concerns that have been mentioned here. Property damage, theft, littering, things like that, resulting from circumventions. It was there. Now, the checkpoint that had the highest level of local concern was the one right here. No question about it. The amount of illegal traffic in Arizona generally is so much larger than in other sectors that you would expect there to be much more concern here. But even with this checkpoint in this location, it's no secret that there is concern. Next slide. It should also be noted that one of the intentions of checkpoints, once they're established, is to make it much more difficult for illegal crossers, whether it's individuals or contraband, to get past. And therefore, to some degree, it almost is promoting a circumvention to remote areas where the Border Patrol would feel that they have a tactical advantage. That's the view. But in order to address that circumvention, the Border Patrol, it's important for the Border Patrol to have the resources needed to address it. Those resources come from a pool that have to be shared with other priorities. And what we found is that oftentimes addressing circumventions is done on a reactive basis, and sometimes the reactive resources were simply not available at all hours, in all circumstances. The Border Patrol has identified some measures that they had intended to use for assessing checkpoint operations and their impact on surrounding areas, things like major crime, referrals to local law enforcement, referrals for prosecution, but they haven't been using them. They haven't been using those measures. What we thought would be important is that when the design of a checkpoint is being considered, along with the bricks and the mortar, the planning, that the resource planning is also a factor that has to be considered right along with the bricks and mortar. So how many people are you going to need? How many sensors? How many cameras? How are you going to operate? It's going to be proactive or reactive. That planning is as important as the planning for the map, the footprint that you saw there. And that planning takes place, but not necessarily with the rigor that you would see or expect, given the importance. The next slide. Looking at I-19, and again, this gets to what contribution the I-19 checkpoint makes. Apprehensions at the I-19 checkpoint went up from 07 to 08. Apprehensions went way up, 07 to 08, in areas surrounding the checkpoint. And seizures went way up around the checkpoint, but down a little bit at the checkpoint. Now for 2009 to date, and we haven't audited these figures, and they don't appear in the report, but what we found is that individual apprehensions are up at the checkpoint from 08 levels, and drug seizures are up by a factor of 4 at the checkpoint so far. The officials acknowledge that these impacts happen. They know that they really need to put the resources there. Sometimes they're not available. They're devoted to higher level purposes at the time. The number varies from day to day, shift to shift. It's what's available and what the threat looks like. But again, there are some limitations to the checkpoint beyond just the resources. I'm going to wrap up here because I know that I want to leave lots of time for questions. Let's go to slide 39. We looked at 4 areas that had been mentioned as indications of checkpoint problems, impacts with the community. And I want to mention right up front, we couldn't find data. We couldn't find data, as hard as we tried, that would directly link checkpoint operations to real estate values, to violent crime, to property crime, to use of state parks. We couldn't find it. We have some data here, and we're going to show you the first one on the next slide, which shows some general trends. But I don't think you can take this and say, aha, this is what the checkpoints do. For example, if you did that, you would say, aha, since they made a fixed location at KP 42, property values in Tubac went way up. This is a good thing. Maybe we should put 2 of them there. You can't make that association. But what we did do is we looked at the property values as measured by mean county tax assessed value for locations both north and south of the I-19 checkpoint, and we looked at data on median sales prices and net assessed value, and both of them showed similar results. So you see the different, I don't know if you can read, this is in the report, it's probably hard to read, but the light one, the white box is Tubac, which has higher property values generally, and has for some time, as you can see. The light gray is Santa Cruz County, the darker gray is Pima County, and the darkest is Green Valley. They all went up differing rates. Tourism. Next slide. The tourist data showed no consistent pattern, all within a 15% spread. If you look at the light dotted line, you see a peak in 2006 and a valley in 2007. That is for the Presidio State Historic Park. In 2006, it was the 50th anniversary celebration. 2007 was the year after. The speculation on the part of the state officials that people wanted to visit it. They did it in the 1 year, but they were visited out, I guess, by 2007. Generally speaking, all across Arizona, tourism at the state parks is down. Can't see a direct link to the checkpoint. Violent crime. The data come from the Pima County and Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office. We are unable, the data to determine if the crimes were committed by illegal aliens or a person trying to circumvent the checkpoints, or people who are aliens but in legal status, or people who are here and full citizens. The data wouldn't let us get there. We don't know, for example, if there were people who are migrants who are doing farm work. We just don't know. The data wouldn't let us do that. But what we did see is that in Pima County, it went up in 2006, came back down, and there's just a trend upward in Santa Cruz County. Again, the number of offenses would have to be looked at and the reasons behind it, but we couldn't make a direct correlation. At the ports of entry, the federal goal is to detect and apprehend 30% of major illegal activity, and this shows the need for a 3-tiered strategy.